तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः।
ओम तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमंगलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. We are studying the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and we are in the conversations of Warden Shakali, that is 17th of April 1885. 17th of April 1886. Bengali page 1043. English 950. 960. English 960. Now, Bengali, I read that 1044 were Saptadasha Parichet. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. The master and M were talking. Shashi was also in the room. Master to M, what was Narendra and Shashi talking about? What did they discuss? M to Shashi. What were you talking about? Shashi. Was it Niranjan that told you about it? So how it has reached Master. Master, what were you discussing? I heard God, being, non-being, and so forth. So he himself has heard that, some words. Shashi smiling. Shall I call Narendra? Master, yes. Because he is not telling, so Thakur wants to hear directly from Narendra. Narendra came in and took a seat. Master to M. Ask him something. To Narendra. Tell us what you were talking about. So nobody asked Thakur directly, has asked Narendra after. Narendra. I have indigestion. What is there to tell you about? Narendra wants to avoid. Master, you will get over your indigestion if you talk with me. M smiling. Tell us about the experience of Buddha. So finally, Master Masha has to pinpointedly ask. They are discussing about Buddha. Narendra. Have I become a Buddha that you want me to talk about him? So still he does not want to take. M. He asked specifically, what does Buddha say about the existence of God? So much direct, precise had to be asked. M. Narendra. How can you say that God is now? He started talking. So he had to be asked very pinpointedly. Narendra. How can you say that God exists? It is you who have created this universe. Don't you know what Berkeley says about it? So he brings a Western philosopher there. So first, prove what is the Narendra's first objection. M. Yes, I do. Because Master also studied Western philosophy. According to him, essay is percipi. That is, the existence of external objects depends on their perception. So he says, you have created everything, the whole universe. That means suppose there is something outside. Suppose we do not know. But we perceive. Because we perceive, we say it exists. That is the reason. The reasoning is that we do not know if there is anything outside. We do not know whether there is a God or not. But we think there is a God. We think there is an outside world. We perceive there is outside world. We do not perceive God, but we think about God and we imagine about God. So we have created the entire universe. That is what Buddha's Alaya Vijnana says, Vijnanavad according to Buddhist philosophy. Master. So Thakur now tell that is the Neti Paksha of Vedanta. Thakur catches the understanding. So, Master, Nankla used to say, the world exists in mind alone and disappears in mind alone. So, Vedanta knows it well. Gaudpadya Karikas have told us also that Chitta Spandan is the cause of the experience of duality. If there would be no Chitta Spandan, there will be no duality. If there is no Chitta Spandan, I, the experiencer, and world, the experience will not happen. So, Gaudpad in his Advaita Prakaran, in the Gaudpadya Mandukya Karikas, has clearly stated this philosophy. And so, Thakur's Guru, Totapuri, was also a person laying emphasis on the transcendent aspect of God. So, everything is, we don't say illusory, we say created by the mind. So, Swami Vivekananda later on has said, the world has no existence, means it has no absolute existence. Relatively it exists in relation to my mind, your mind, and everybody's mind. So, because in the mind, Gaudpad said, there is a vibration in the mind. And so, that vibration in the mind creates the appearance of the world. So, what Buddha is telling is not a strange thing to Vedanta. The world exists in mind alone and disappears in mind alone. Because when the mind does not vibrate, then there is no world, disappear. But as long as I consciousness exists, so simultaneously these two things are created. You cannot say, I imagine things. No. Gaudpad says, he himself has imagined, he himself is as if deluded, he himself is the perceiver, there is no I. So, if you refute the world or say it is only mind, then mind has created I also. That you have to add. So, Thakur understands what Buddha has said. It is not different from what Gaudpad has said, but it is incomplete analysis. If you say the world does not exist, then this I also does not exist. So long as I exist, the world exists. But as long as I consciousness exists, one should assume the servant and master relationship with God. I exist, then the world exists. then God who has created both exist. I have to find some relation with God. So servant and master relationship is the easiest and natural relationship. So Thakur has resolved everything in a trice. Nothing is new for him. He knows every type of philosophy because it comes from the mind only. You think only of the suffering in the world. No. No. An actor. Narendra to M. How can you prove by reasoning that God exists? Thakur has already told that. But if you depend on faith, then you must accept the relationship of servant and master. Faith means I believe. Reason cannot reach up to Advaita. Reason fails to reason that God exists. So it is not a matter of reason. Narendra understands that. So the question was, how can reason you accept? But man feels he has faith, there is God. And if you have faith, then what Thakur says, so Narendra has reconciled it in his own mind after Thakur has told that. And if you accept that and you can't help it, so Narendra's emphasis now. And if you accept that you are the servant and God the master, and you must accept that, then you must also say that God is kind. God is kindness personified, Shachi Maharaj said. Even in the darkest of situations, Ramakrishna and the Swami in Madras, somebody said, God does not seem to be kind to us now. Shachi Maharaj said, don't talk like that. God is kind by nature. It may be sometimes pleasant kindness, sometimes unpleasant kindness, but it is kindness. So, Swamiji says, from this point you can start reasoning. If you have faith, then God is there. If you have faith, you are the servant and God the master, and then you must accept from here, reasoning further, that God is kind. Clear picture? Then Narendra himself is continuing. You think only of the suffering in the world. So the argument against the existence of God is, if God is all kind, why there is so much suffering in the world? To that, Narendra is rousing and replying himself. Very beautiful things for spiritual life. You think only of the suffering in the world? Buddha also said like that. Why do you forget that God has also given you so much happiness? So world is a mixture of happiness and misery. You don't say it is only misery. God has given you so much happiness. How kind He is to us. So Narendra has now turned over this side. How kind He is to us. He has granted us three very great things. Daiva Anugraha Hetukam. That is kindness. Not kindness because God has given me to eat, not kindness because God has given me money or wife or home. No. God is kind. This is now a sadhak analysis. A sadhak spirit has come out because Narendra was so interested, so utterly earnest about realization of God. So he had gone to Buddha Gaya and found the negative thing. Coming back now, he says, He has granted us three very great things. Human birth, the yearning to know God, and the companionship of a great soul. Now, Narendra later on has proved God ontologically. That means I am eager to realize God. Therefore, God is there. That's why I am able to. If there was no God, why should I be eager? So like that also, they prove God. All were silent. This is the point. Master to Narendra. I feel very clearly that there is someone within me. I feel very clearly, he says, that there is someone, this is a body, and in that God exists. Dr. Rajendra Lal arrived and took a seat. So that conversation is stopped now. He had been treating the master with homeopathic medicine. When the talk about medicine was over, Sri Ramakrishna pointed out Manamohan to the doctor, Rajendra. He is a distant relative of mine. Narendra went downstairs. He was singing to himself. So Narendra is now in that mood. So if there is any one-sidedness, it is not about Buddha, Buddhistic philosopher. Narendra has come out of that, and his eagerness to realize God has taken over, and kindness of God he feels due to these three things. And so now he's singing to himself, Lord, thou hast lifted all my sorrow with the vision of thy face. And the magic of thy beauty has bewitched my mind. Beholding thee, the seven worlds forget their never-ending woe. Sapta lok we imagine, so seven words, higher and higher. What shall I say then of myself, a poor and lowly soul? So that is the song, Bengali. सब दुख दूर करिले दर्शन दिए मोहिले प्राण सप्त लोक भूले शोक तुम्हारे गाय पाइए कोथा हमी अति दीनहीन. So all that love has come out in Narendra. Narendra had a little indigestion. That was a fact. He said to him, if one follows the path of bhakti, then the mind comes down a little to the body. Path of knowledge will remove everything. But when you accept bhakti, you accept yourself also. Then there is body also. Otherwise, who am I? If you reason, if you follow the path of knowledge, neither man nor God, I have neither pleasure nor pain. Who am I? Neither man nor God. One without a second reality, you cannot call it God also. God rules the world. If there is no world, there is no ruler. That is absolute transcendental Vedanta. So that is Narendra's spirit. He has fully caught Thakur's spirit by now. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening. Surendra and a few other devotees entered Sri Ramakrishna's room and offered him garlands of flowers. Baburam, Latu and him were also in the room. Sri Ramakrishna put Surendra's garland on his own neck. All sat quietly. Suddenly the master made a sign to Surendra to come near him. When the disciple came near the Lord, Sri Ramakrishna took the garland from his neck and put it around Surendra. Surendra saluted the master. Sri Ramakrishna asked him by a sign to rub his feet. What had happened? That some of the sannyasi, would-be sannyasi disciples, were not allowing Surendra also to come. And Surendra once had a little sort of ego. I spent so much money for this girl. So Thakur had not accepted at that time. But Surendra has repented and Thakur has become very kind. So he not only accepts the garland, but gives to Surendra as prasad and asks him to do some seva. So he shows that Surendra is his very own. Surendra gave them a gentle message. Several devotees were sitting on the bank of the reservoir in the garden. Again, the name is called reservoir. You may say a pond or a tank, singing to the accompaniment of drum and cymbals. So they were intoxicated in singing. Sri Ramakrishna sent them word through Latu to sing the name of Hari. So it was heard by Sri Ramakrishna, and he wanted them to sing the name of Hari. M. Baburam and several others were still sitting in the master's room. They heard the devotees singing their dances, my Gora, chanting Hari's name. Gora is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the master heard the song, he made a sign to Baburam and M to join them. He also asked them to dance. So he is sick and all that. But he wants everybody to be merged in God as much as they can, freely. So sing and dance. Be intoxicated with God's devotion. A few minutes later, Sri Ramakrishna sent another devotee to the singers to ask them to sing the following improvised lines. My Gora even knows how to dance. Improvised lines, huh? How can I describe my Gora's moods? My Gora dances with both his hands upraised. So these are the lines suggested by Sri Ramakrishna about Bhava, about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The music was over. Surendra was almost in an ecstatic mood. He sang. So now Surendra is singing now. আমার পাগল বাবা পাগলি আমার মা আমি তাদের পাগল ছেলে আমার মায়ের নাম শ্যামা বাবা বম বম বলে মদ খেয়ে মা গায়ে পড়ে টলে শ্যামার এলোকে সে দোলে মা গায়ে পড়ে ঢলে শ্যামার এলোকেশ দোলে রাঙ্গা পায়ে ভ্রমর কাজে ওই নূপুর বাজে শুনো না Surendra was not of the Vaishnava type. His devotion, whole thing was concentrated on God as mother. So he is singing now about mother's song. Thakur had asked them to sing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gaur and Harinam. That is over. So Surendra is now singing of his own mood because he is happy. Thakur has graced him. We read English. Crazy is my father, crazy is my mother. Shiva and Parvati are supposed to be beyond everything. So they are called crazy. Am I their son? And I, their son, am crazy too. I being their son, how can be separate? So I am also intoxicated. Shama is my mother's name. My father strikes his cheek and makes a hollow sound. Bum bum. Baba boom, Baba boom. Actually, the Bengali approach of Vyom has become boom. But it can be like beating the cheeks and telling this boom. And my mother drunk and reeling. So that is the whole scene. Falls across my father's body. Shama's streaming tresses hang in vast disorder. Bees are swarming, numberless, about her crimson lotus feet. So feet are compared with the lotus. And it is so real like lotus that bees are hovering around. That is the poet's fertile mind. Listen as she dances, how her anklets ring. That is the song. So that day is over. We come to chapter 51, the master's love for his devotees, Wednesday, April 21, 1886. I think that is the last description by M. A big description? Yes. No, one more is there. Okay. M and Narendra were strolling in the garden of the house at Kashipur. Narendra was very much worried because he had not yet been able to solve the financial difficulties of his family. Narendra, I don't care for the job at Vidyasagar School. I have been thinking of going to Gaya. I have been told that a zamindar there needs the service of a manager for his estate. There is no such thing as God. Because now Narendra is suffering, so he says there is no such thing as God. I am smiling. You may say that now, but later on you will talk differently. Skepticism is a stage in the path of God realization. One must pass through stages like this and go much further, go much farther. Only thus can one realize God. That is what the Master says. So M's knowledge is from Thakur. And he states that he knows this skepticism comes. Narendra. Has anybody seen God as I see that tree? So Narendra wants a direct vision. And yes, our Master has seen God that way. He told you on the very first day. Narendra. It may be his hallucination. M. Whatever a person experiences in a particular state is real for him. In that state, suppose you are dreaming that you have gone to a garden. As long as the dream lasts, the garden is real for you. But you think of it as unreal when your mind undergoes a change. As for instance, when you awake, when your mind attains the state in which one sees God, you will know God to be real. So this is another beautiful argument that it is not solved by arguments, but by real experience, you will himself see. Narendra, I want truth. That means the absolute truth, not assumed or lower truth. The other day I had a great argument with Sri Ramakrishna himself. I am smiling. What happened? Narendra, he said to me, some people call me God. I replied, let 1,000 people call you God, but I shall certainly not call you God as long as I do not know it is to be true. Narendra has no faith in faith, no belief without realizing. That is Narendra's terminology. People thought he does not accept Thakur as God. There is nothing called acceptance in Narendra's mind, one should understand. He wants experience, till then he does not accept it. So the mind itself is very different. People are misunderstanding at that time. I replied, let 1,000 people call you God, but I shall certainly not call you God as long as I do not know it to be true. He said, whatever many people say is indeed true. That is dharma. Thereupon I replied, let others proclaim a thing as truth, but I shall certainly not listen to them unless I myself realize it as truth. So Thakur was telling, अनेके जा बोलबे ताई तो सत्य ताई तो धर्म. Because why so many people say. So one should accept that. Narendra is not ready. I am smiling. Your attitude is like that of Western savants, Copernicus and Berkeley, for instance. The whole world said it was the sun that moved. But Copernicus did not listen. The Christian father tortured him for that thing. Everybody said the external world was real, but Berkeley paid no heed. Therefore, Lewis said, why was Berkeley not a philosophical Copernicus? What Copernicus did about science, astronomy, Berkeley did about philosophy. Narendra, can you give me a history of philosophy? M. By whom? Lewis. Narendra, no. Uberweg. I must read a German author. Germans were better analytical. M. You just said, has anybody seen God as I see that tree? Suppose God comes to you as a man and says, I am God. Thakur is there now. Will you believe in it then? You certainly remember the story of Lazarus. After his death, Lazarus said to Abraham, "Let me go back to the earth and tell my friends and relatives that hell and the afterlife exist." Abraham replied, "Do you think they will believe you? They will say it is a charlatan who is telling them such things." The master says that God cannot be known by reasoning. By faith alone, one attains everything, knowledge and super knowledge. By faith alone, one sees God and becomes intimate with Him. So start with faith, then you will realize, then there will be no doubt, no reasoning. You can even be intimate with Him. That will be absolutely real. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So in Narendra's skeptical mind, Master Mahasaya is using by showing the counter arguments and Sri Ramakrishna's realization. Master Mahasaya is little senior also, no? Sri Ramakrishna was in bed. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sri Ramakrishna was in bed. Ramlal, who had come from Dakshineshwar, was massaging his feet. Gopal of Siti and M were in the room. Sri Ramakrishna asked them to shut the windows and massage his feet. At the master's request, Purna had come to the Kashipur garden in a hired carriage. I could arrange that. Solicitors about Purna were heard many times this. M was to pay the carriage hire. Sri Ramakrishna made a sign to Gopal asking whether he had obtained the money from M. That elderly Gopal had brought him. Gopal answered in the affirmative. So Sri Ramakrishna is checking about everything. At 9 o'clock in the evening, again 9 o'clock it has come. At 9 o'clock in the evening, it is summer. So even 9 o'clock is still in the evening. At 9 o'clock in the evening, Surendra, Ram and the others were about to return to Calcutta. It was the sultry month of April and Sri Ramakrishna's room became very hot during the day. So Surendra had brought some straw screen to keep the rain room cool. Is it straw? It is not simple straw. Khaskhas in Bengali. Marathi only khas. So a special type of straw you may say, which has a sweet smell, and if water drops on that, it gets divided into so many drops. And so when the wind comes, it becomes cool. So that is the Indian old type of cooler or AC. That is straw. So I can find out actually if there is an English word for that. No, that is a different. No, no. Khas. Oh, Marathi is only khas. Andropogon muricatus is a big name. Andhra Pavan Miraculatus. So, some special type of straw. I just now it is correct. It cools and it has a sweet smell. They use that fan also and as these screens. Surendra, why nobody has hung up these straw screens? Nobody here pays attention to anything. The householders would give money or thing. The thing had to be done by the young boys. A devotee, smiling. The devotees here are now in the state of Brahmajnana. They feel I am he. The world is unreal to them. When they come down to a lower plane and regard God as the master and themselves as his servant, then they will pay attention to the service of Sri Ramakrishna. Allah. That is not literally true, but in a way true. That's all. Then Thursday, April 22, 1886, in the evening, Rakhal, Shashi and M were strolling in the garden of Kaship. M. The master is like a child, beyond the three gunas. Shashi and Rakhal. He himself has said that. Rakhal. He sits in a tower, as it were, from which he gets all information and sees everything, but others cannot go there and reach him. So, God's vision, because in a tower he sees everything, but one cannot go through that. So, this is a beautiful analogy for God as the highest point, Sri Ramakrishna being that God. And he said, in such a state of mind, one sees God constantly. In him, there is not the slightest trace of worldliness. His mind is like dry fuel which catches fire quickly. So they are describing their own ideas, opinions, readings about Sri Ramakrishna's Godhood. Shashi. He described the different kinds of intelligence to Charu. Charu is Sardan Swamiji's younger brother, Shashi Maharaj's cousin brother. The right intelligence is that through which one attains God, but the intelligence that enables one to become a deputy magistrate or a lawyer or to acquire a house is a mean intelligence. So, buddhi, Thakur has shown, buddhi which becomes bodha is right. Otherwise, buddhi which calculates and gives worldly benefit is bad. It is like thin and watery curd. Thakur's description, curd, thin and watery, which merely soaks flattened rice but does not add any flavor to it. Thakur's analogy, it is not like thick, superior curd, but the intelligence through which one attains God is like thick curd. So, practical examples of everyday use. M. What wonderful words. Shashi. Kali said to the master, Kali Swami Vivekananda, Kali said to the master, what the good of having joy? The beels are joyous. Beels means the forest dwellers. Savages are always singing and dancing in a frenzy of delight. Rakhal. He, meaning the master, replied to Kali, what do you mean? Can the bliss of Brahman be the same as worldly pleasure? Ordinary men are satisfied with worldly pleasure. One cannot enjoy the bliss of Brahman unless one completely rids oneself of attachment to worldly things. There is the joy of money and sense experience, and there is the bliss of God realization. Can the two ever be the same? The rishis enjoyed the bliss of Brahman. M. You see, Kali nowadays meditates on Buddha. That is why he speaks of state beyond bliss. Rakhan. Yes, Kali told the master about Buddha. Sri Ramakrishna said to him, Buddha is an incarnation of God. How can you compare him to anybody else? So that is main point. Don't bring Buddha like a man and compare. As he is great, so too is his teaching great. So you want to follow Buddha's teaching is very difficult. Kali said to him, everything indeed is the manifestation of God's power. Both worldly pleasure and the bliss of God are the manifestation of that power. M. What did the master say to that? Rakal. He said, how can that be? Is the power to beget a child the same as the power through which one realizes God? So Avidya Maya and Vidya Maya Thakur separates. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room on the second floor. Narendra, Rakal, Shashi, Surendra, M. Bhavanath and other devotees were present. Dr. Mahendra Sarkar and Dr. Rajendra Datta were also there to examine him. His condition was growing worse. Physical. The house rent was between 60 and 65 rupees. Surendra bore most of the expenses and had rented the house in his name. The other householder devotees contributed financial help according to their power. So he's describing the arrangement, how the devotees were managing. A cook and a maid had been engaged to look after the members of the household. Because not only Thakur, the other people have to be master to Dr. Sarkar and the other. The expenses are mounting. Dr. Sarkar pointing to the devotees. But they are ready to bear them. They do not hesitate to spend money to Sri Ramakrishna. Now you see gold is necessary. Master to Narendra. Why don't you answer? Here I think there was one word. नहीं बोलना ठीक है okay. Narendra remained silent. Dr. Sarkar resumed the conversation. Narendra instantly did not reply. Dr. Sarkar, gold is necessary and also woman. Rajendra, yes, his Sri Ramakrishna's wife has been cooking his meals. So woman also is necessary for cooking the meals. Dr. Sarkar to the master, do you see? Master smiling, yes, but very troublesome. To think of them is troublesome. Dr. Sarkar, if there was no trouble, then all would become paramahamsas like you. Trouble is in the world. Master, if a woman touches me, I fall ill. So see my condition first. That part of my body aches as if stung by a hornfish. Repulsion to the extreme. Dr. Sarkar, I believe that in your case, but how can you get along without woman? Master, my hand gets all twisted up. If I hold money in it, my breathing stops. But there is no harm in spending money to lead a spiritual life in the world. If one spends it, for instance, in the worship of God and the service of holy men and devotees. So he shows the use of money to a householder, that also for the service of God and holy men. So relative value of money. In Thakur's case, absolute sannyasi, he cannot even touch money, he cannot touch woman. So he has the authority to tell others. A man forgets God if he is entangled in the world of Maya through a woman. It is the mother of the universe who has assumed the form of Maya, the form of woman. So she herself is the power of delusion. One who knows this rightly does not feel like leading the life of Maya in the world, but he who truly realizes that all women are manifestations of the Divine Mother may lead a spiritual life in the world. So, if you feel that, then you can live in the world also. Without realizing God, one cannot truly know what a woman is because one feels in the trap of Maya. If you realize God, you will see her as Divine Mother's manifest. That is the real nature. Otherwise, woman as such will fall in the trap. Sri Ramakrishna had felt a slight improvement as a result of the homeopathic treatment. Rajendra, to the master, after getting rid of this illness, you must begin to practice medicine as a homeopath. Otherwise, what's the use of this human life? That is his idea. Huh? All laugh. Narendra immediately introduced, immediately. Nothing like leather or love. So you must understand the story of nothing like leather. In the Roman times in city states, they had dug a canal around the city and they thought they are safe. But the enemies, seeing that they are feeling too much overconfident, attacked them. Then the council said, then they said we may raise a boundary. Somebody said iron, somebody said something. The cobbler said, leather is the best thing, sir. Nothing like leather. So, cobbler knows best thing is leather. So, the homeopaths are talking about homeopathy. That is Narendra's comment. A few minutes later, the physicians took their leave. Sri Ramakrishna and M were engaged in conversation. The master was telling him how he felt about women. He wants to impress that on M. Master to M. They say I cannot get along without woman and God. They don't understand the state of my mind. If I touch a woman, my hand becomes numb. It aches. If in a friendly spirit I approach a woman and begin to talk to her, I feel as if a barrier had been placed between us. It is impossible for me to cross that barrier. Emotional friendship. Thakur's case is a unique ideal for all to follow to their possibility. If a woman enters my room when I am alone, at once I become like a child and regard her as my mother. That is a special quality. As M listened to these words, he became speechless with wonder at Sri Ramakrishna's exalted state of mind. Bhavanath and Narendra were sitting at a distance talking together. Bhavanath had married and was trying to find a job as he could not visit Sri Ramakrishna frequently at Kasipur. So he could not visit Sri Ramakrishna frequently at Kasipur. He had said, he had said to him, I understand that Vidyasagar wants to start a new school. I have to earn my livelihood. Will it be possible for me to secure a job in that school? The master, Naren did not want that job. The master was much worried about Bhavanath being entangled in worldly life. Bhavanath was 23 or 24 years old. So they used to marry very early. Master to Narendra, give him a lot of courage because they had special bond of love between them. And Narendra is a hero. Narendra and Bhavanath smiled. Sri Ramakrishna said to Bhavanath, by science, be a great hero. Don't forget yourself when you see her weeping behind her veil. He said, women weep any time. You should not be deluded by that. Oh, women cry so much. Even they blow their noses. Narendra Bhavanath and M. La, master's observation about the womanly behavior. Many times it is artificial. Many times it is enemy. Keep your mind firm on God. He who is a hero lives with a woman but does not indulge in physical pleasure. Talk to your wife only about God. So Thakur is instructing Bhavanath how to live a married man's life. A few minutes later, Sri Ramakrishna said to Bhavanath by sign, take your meal here today. Bhavanath, yes sir, I am quite all right. Don't worry about me. Thakur is worried more than the devotee himself. Surendra came in and took a seat. The devotees offered garlands of flowers to the master every evening. Sri Ramakrishna put these garlands around his neck. Surendra sat quietly in the room. Sri Ramakrishna was in a very happy mood and gave him two garlands. Surendra saluted the master and put them round his neck. All sat in silence and looked at Sri Ramakrishna. Surendra saluted the master again and stood up. He was about to leave. He asked Bhavanath to hang the straw screens over the windows. Hirananda came in with two of his friends. Hirananda was a native of Sindh, but he had come to Calcutta for studies, and at that time he had met Thakur and had become a devotee. Now he had heard about Thakur's illness, maybe in the Brahmo newspapers, and he has come all the way. Hirananda came in with two of his friends. He was a native of Sindh, about 2,200 miles. In those days, the calculation was not kilometers. 160 kilometers for 100 miles. You have to multiply by 1.6. Twenty-two, 16, 32, 352, 35 thousand, 3,500 kilometers. After finishing his college education in Calcutta in 1883, he had returned to Sindh and taken charge of editing two papers, the Sindh Times and the Sindh Sudhar. While studying in Calcutta, he had often visited Keshav Chandra Sen and had come to know him intimately. He had met Sri Ramakrishna at the Kali temple as Dakshineshwar and had spent an occasional night there with the master. So he had become a very close devotee. Hearing of Sri Ramakrishna's illness, he now came to Calcutta from Sindh to see. The master himself had been very eager to see her. So master must have called him, attracted him, and he came. Shall I tell a story? There was a student, Meghla, belonging to a very low caste and orphan in this Vivekananda Vidyarthi Bhavan of Nagpur Ashrama. And he had become very close, thick devotee of my Guruji. My Guruji learned Hindi with his help. Then he had become a very big man, Damodar Valley Corporation, he was an engineer there. And Guruji was in his last days. And he was asking Bhavananda. So many devotees came to know about his sickness. They used to come and visit him. So my master is asking Bhavananda, he has not come. Then name he could not remember. So Bhavananda was asking, is this man? No. This man? No. Oh, he is about Meghla? Yes, Meghlan has not come. So Bhavananda sent a telegram and Meghlan came. And how happy Meghlan was. So that I remember here. Thakur himself had called Hirananda. The master himself had been very eager to see Hirananda. Sri Ramakrishna pointed to Hirananda and said to him by sign, a very fine boy. Do you know him? Yes, sir. Master to Hirananda and him. Please talk a little. I want to hear you both. So how their spirituality is developing, that is what Thakur was saying. When M remained silent, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "Is Narendra here?" Call him. M is not talking. Narendra entered the room and sat near the master. Master to Narendra and Hiranand, "I want to hear you two talk." Hiranand was silent a few moments, and then after great hesitation began the conversation. Hirananda was a peace-loving person. Hirananda to Narendra, "Why does a devotee of God suffer?" His words were sweet as nectar. Everyone in the room could feel that his heart was filled with love. Narendra, "The plan of the universe is devilish. I could have created a better world." Because he was cross and God. For himself had suffered and see Thakur like a man is suffering. Hirananda, can one feel happiness without misery? So Hirananda himself is suggesting the answer. Narendra, I am not making a plan for a universe, but simply giving my opinion of the present plan. I can also create it better, but I do not know how to plan it. But the present plan is not good. But all these problems are solved. Now Narendra's final opinion. But all these problems are solved if you have faith only in one thing, and that is pantheism. Now, the word pantheism is used here. Pantheism means everything is God, but not in the physical sense. So actually what Narendra is meaning is immanence of God, all pervasiveness of God. God himself is appearing in all people. So if we believe that, then there is no question of sorrow and happiness. God himself is drama, God himself is suffering, and God is never suffering. All doubts disappear if one believes that everything is God. God alone is responsible for all that happens. Hirananda, very easy to say that. When you suffer, then it is difficult to say that. Narendra sang Shankara's 6 stanzas on the reward. So we'll catch that tomorrow. Huh? Yes. There is a beautiful discussion between Narendra and Hirananda, very illuminating. We shall take it up tomorrow. Om Tava Kathamrutam Tapta Jivanam Kavivireeditam Kalmashapam Shravana Mangalam Shrimadaatatam Vigrunanti Ye Bhuridajana. Om Shanti 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 Hare Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanavastu.